training session. Thanks.
We're live. This Life in Tech, finally, episode 80. I'm Jason.
I'm Dan. And our guy
Kenny.
with the weird, will not get rid of those silly, stupid AirPods is.
Well, if Jason didn't curse like a sailor, I could just use my regular microphone. And but I'm at work, So.
What, are you afraid somebody's going to get offended by words?
Man, you know how people are these days.
No, because I don't hang around people like that. I mean, look, the only person I basically talk to is you and Dan.
And Marsha.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm outside in the command center now, which you can see the nice wall color. What a perfect gray, man.
Gray.
Yeah, it's called like lunar surface
Sasha
or something
gray,
like
is
that.
it?
What's that?
Sasha gray or something like that?
No, it's like lunar surface from Bear.
Yeah, looks nice.
Yeah, man. Except I got the light issue, see?
No, you're going to have a big tan line. Right.
Well, that's why I was talking about these guys. This is a particle photon. And I'm getting blinds and I want to automate it, right?
Nice.
And so my first instinct was to just use an Arduino, which I have plenty of around laying around. And you can use a light sensor, a photo sensor, and it just automate itself based on how much light there is. But I thought, you know what? I already have a Google Home in here, so why not just voice control them? So I got these little embedded IoT, essentially Arduinos. Dude, what a nightmare to set up and configure.
I bet.
No Google Home at my house. No Alexa.
Why not?
I don't trust them.
You don't trust them?
Hell no.
Well,
Which phone do you have?
Which phone do I have? iPhone.
So you trust Siri a little bit more?
I don't use Siri.
Really? It's on your phone.
Well, just because you have the phone doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it.
It's still on and listening.
No, you can turn it off.
Yeah.
But I believe you're probably right. It stays on, is my guess.
You're so pretty, Ken. You're so pretty.
Well, wait, let's talk about this, man, because what do you not trust?
I don't know where that data is going.
But why do you care? Let's go back a step.
Well, I know you have a different take on privacy than I do. And actually, I'm glad we're talking about this because I have another, I was thinking about a topic we could talk about, and I have another one about Facebook after this. So I don't know. I don't know. I just don't trust him. I don't trust Google. I don't trust Apple either. But you got to have a phone.
Do you trust the government?
Heck no, man.
Wait,
It sounds like it might not be all these others that have the problem. The problem might be you.
I knew you were going to say that. That's what my parents say.
but complete that question, though. Do you trust the government to do what? And for whom?
I don't trust the government to do the right thing.
What's the right thing?
I'll take my area of the state. We have Marsha Blackburn. She's our senator here, and she took $870,000 from the telecom lobby and then voted against net neutrality. So
What's wrong with that?
I believe in net neutrality.
Do you believe in capitalism?
Do what?
Do you believe in capitalism?
Well, I do, but I mean, where's it going to stop if we, we all enjoy our Netflix, our YouTube. Hey, we're streaming right now, which is taking up some bandwidth. I mean, what if someone starts coming to you and asking you for a toll just because we're streaming? I mean, where does it stop? I
wouldn't use that ISP, which is exactly what a free market should enforce.
But therein lies the rub. Our local government has only approved one ISP for my area.
Well, then start another ISP or start another government.
Well, I mean, there's the flip side onto both sides. So I can't say you're right or you're wrong. I believe that I could make an argument for either side, but I do believe that in the path in which we're going, if we can increase competition, then maybe, just maybe, we'll actually start having better services.
Yeah, see, and that's what I would suggest. is a viewpoint is that the problem itself isn't net neutrality having or not having it. The problem is the lack of competition. So what's the root cause of that? Is it regulation? Is it deregulation? And that's why I suggest that, and you've already seen this in certainly larger metropolises. I mean, California's done this in LA and San Francisco, and I think Sacramento, of course, which is the capital, and other major cities around the US, where even at the thought of net neutrality going away, these let's say municipalities started to erect their own networks because screw you, we'll do it ourselves.
And we actually have that in Tennessee, in Chattanooga. They have the biggest Muni Wi-Fi and Muni system in the world. And it's fast, it's convenient, and everybody complains about it in the state. But you know what? It works.
What do they complain about?
Oh, the corporations. It seems like I'm really bright in here.
Well, yeah, because you're facing your window, so your lens closes.
Yeah, let me turn to the other side.
Well, of course the companies do, because they because they didn't want to compete in that hierarchy, right? Yeah. They wanted a lockdown on it, and then what happened? The market found a way, and that's exactly what a free market should do.
There we go.
That would be my argument. The same thing with the politics. You know, if we don't want our politicians taking $800,000 to vote in their own personal best interest, because that's what that is, right?
Sure.
Then we either need to get rid of those individuals or recognize, I would suggest, that the system itself creates that incentive. So we need a different system.
Sure.
So it sounds like that it's not so much that you're against or for net neutrality. You don't trust the people that they're actually going to be able to provide what they say they're going to provide.
Yeah, a really good example last week. New York thinking about kicking Charter out of the state. They didn't. That's the first state that's even mentioned kicking a telecom out because they didn't do their job. You know, what I'm afraid of is we're going to get to a point where we are going to be paying separate bills to access separate websites. That's
Do you have Netflix today?
I have Netflix, yeah. I have an 11-year-old special needs child. We think she does all day.
What about Hulu? Do you have Hulu also?
I don't.
Amazon Prime?
I do have Amazon Prime.
But you're already paying two different streaming services.
But I don't have cable and I don't have anything else.
But you're paying for the internet access.
That is true. And it's expensive. I mean, I got a gig fiber.
Kind of doing that? You've got internet and then you're paying for services? I'm just curious what you think.
No, and I think you bring up a valid point. I worry that it's going to become even more segmented. But I don't disagree with you on that line. I can remember, and the three of us are old enough to remember, everybody complaining about bundling with cable, right? Everybody said, "Well, I don't want to pay for ESPN. I don't want Disney, or I don't want some trash at my house." Well, what's happening is now we're seeing the fallout from that, if you want to call it fallout, just like Dan just said. Well, now you're paying for Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu. You still have DirecTV, Comcast, Xfinity.
Sling TV.
Sling TV. We tried that. It was terrible.
Here's an interesting analog, though, because how many of us, I know I've said this in the past, and I guarantee you Dan has, because I think I've been with him when he said it, that you would pay for a faster lane on the freeway.
Hell yeah.
Well, so how is that any different? I would suggest that the problem isn't metered access. The problem is that the basic universal access sucks.
Oh, I would agree with that. But I mean, it's hard for me to complain now in my neighborhood. I literally have fiber in my house to the street.
Right.
I have 1 gig, but I will say this. A quarter mile down the street, I only had a 20 megabyte connection through Charter. So I don't disagree. I think that we do have a market problem. Well, I still think net neutrality is important. I really do.
No. So Ken keeps saying, I don't disagree, but what I really want to know is, does he agree?
That's right. It's not the same thing. Well, look, I mean, here's another analog, but directly in a profession we share in common, which is academia. Well, 2 of us do, 3 of us did. Just recently, Sweden and Germany severed their relationship with Elsevier, the major publisher. And they said, fuck you. It's what you're doing is wrong. And this was all rooted in the fact that the EU appointed Elsevier to oversee the open access guidelines. Well, come on, man. You're asking the fox to guard the sheep. And so those 2 countries that, wield, I think, a fair bit of at least economic might in the EU.
Especially Germany.
Definitely. Said, go fuck yourself. We don't need you. We'll do it ourselves. And they did. So clearly,
but see, I think the issue, and I agree with that was a good move. Elsevier, as we know in academia, is the bully in the china shop. And hey, what is that? Michigan?
Yeah.
My buddy just won the deal to provide their new HPCC there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I got this. I was indoctrinated last week for being out there the entire week for their immersion week. Go Blue.
Oh my gosh.
Great. So I'll associate myself with this academic organization.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But so yeah, I mean, now those are countries. But my point is, that when a body politic gets together and wants social change, you can achieve it, and you can achieve it through nonviolent means.
I agree. I just think we have so many problems in this country right now. Thinking about net neutrality or municipality ISPs, rural ISPs, is no way near the top of our level of concern. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't disagree. But here's what I would suggest, and let's put this in the framework of education. Would you agree that I don't know if I want to say bringing about change is an abstract concept that applies to all kinds of problems. How you change something so that it's no longer a problem is roughly the same, right?
Sure.
All right. So if I'm able to change how broadband access happens in my municipality, that's an instance or an example of how to institute social change. So if somebody wants to work on the homeless problem or the job problem, which way you want to look at that, well, they're actually materially different, right? Although they're related. But now you have this exemplar for how to create or institute or foment social change. You don't like this person that took 800 grand. Listen, I'll say this. I don't fault the person. I'd probably take the 800 grand too.
Right.
I have a family to feed. I want to keep my job so I can keep doing what I'm doing. Why wouldn't you do it? The problem is the system, isn't it?
Allowing the 800 grand.
Why does that person need 800 grand? Like, what's the incentive for doing that? It's not just the 800 grand.
On a different provider network?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, they want to keep their job, so they want reelected, so you need favors, right? That's politics. So where did they get that 800 grand from? Do you know?
From Comcast.
All right, so why does Comcast even have a voice in politics?
And I don't do. I know where you're going. I completely agree. Maybe if they were a global company, they would like to have that. So let's take Amazon. They need to lobby for different tax structures. Apple, Microsoft, because they do all over the world. But I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't think they should be allowed to give that kind of money. I don't even think any politician should be taking that money.
I'll say this: if I was a shareholder, I'd be pissed because your job is to sell products and make money for me, not to lobby government so that you don't have to innovate. That's what that is, right?
Sure.
In my opinion,
that's a lot of money to give.
Well, not to Comcast, it's not though.
It's cheaper than R&D.
That is true.
I mean, Dan, you and I know how expensive it is to innovate. Like technology-wise, it's enormously expensive. So why not take the easier route and just buy a politician that'll vote for you? It's way cheaper. and then they're in your pocket because they're dirty. And we're all like, that's just politics. No, it's not, man. It's not how
it doesn't have to be that way.
It shouldn't, right? By its very nature, it's corrupted then. Well, look at what's happening in the education. It follows the same structure.
Oh, with Betsy, good old Betsy.
Well, it's a corruption of incentives. Look, man.
And here's another, speaking of corruption, just to transition to something else. What's this? Facebook now wants banking data.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Because that's like a great idea, right? Let's now give them all the financial data. So then we can start targeting ads specifically to people based on their net worth, as well as how they vote and all that kind of stuff.
Here's the issue. This is not the first time they've asked for this. This is the second time. But you notice it only got maybe a couple of hours of press. They didn't do it publicly. They did it privately. And then what most people have forgotten, a couple months ago, they had also been asking U.S. hospitals for data. I mean, what the hell is going on with these people? And that's why they need to start reining that crap in right now.
Well, maybe if we had more competition, there would be an alternative social media site that could compete with Facebook.
You're getting your MBA right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that explains a lot of your side. I did that MBA thing 11 years ago, so I know exactly what you're up to there, Dan.
Because the future value.
Yeah. Sorry, MBA joke there.
But it's a fundamental. It's a good transition, but it's fundamentally the same type of questioning.
It's exact same.
Yeah. Why does Facebook, from a business perspective, from a market perspective, need that access? Like what? Because clearly it's a monetization scheme. Right?
Yeah, here, I kept the Facebook tab open. I'll tell you what they said. The company this past year asked JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, yada, yada, to discuss potential offerings it could host for bank customers on Facebook Messenger. They want to be a platform where people buy, sell goods and services. But the information they wanted to share was credit card transactions, checking account balances, as an effort to offer new services to users.
Right.
I think that's outrageous.
Bank services, they want to offer essentially ads.
Yeah.
Which we all know for the longest time that's Facebook's structure, right?
Right.
Okay. So why, as a company, does Facebook need that alternative or additional revenue stream?
Oh, I completely agree. They're just looking to branch out in other areas to increase revenues because they're having a revenue problem. They're going to be having a revenue problem. If you've been reading their quarterly reports, they're losing a lot of people every quarter.
Sure. But the reason why they're looking to do this is because ads themselves are expensive for companies. And so they want to be able to target even more specific to a particular demographic. So, if we just say, hey, I'm going to buy ads, and let's say it's Gucci, it's a premium line. If someone only makes, $15 an hour, they're not going to be buying anything Gucci. Right. So, and nor does Gucci want to be advertising to someone in that demographic, but they don't know. So Facebook's trying to find a way in which they can specifically target to gain more ad revenue. That's my guess.
Yeah, well, and so again, I don't blame them. It's no different than the politician that took the 800K. All those people have families to feed, so to speak, and they wanted to keep their job. And their job is to do this, right? To me, the root problem is that incentive system. So what creates the incentive to want to continue to increase and expand revenue? Well, it's shareholders, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, that's why the company exists.
Well, okay, so can a company exist without shareholders?
Can a company exist without shareholders?
Well, yeah.
No. You would have at least one.
You can have even private companies have shareholders, but yeah.
There's always at least one. If you'd gone to like Ross, Michigan, you would understand that with that part of the MBA.
What are you, like one class in?
What are you talking about?
That's how good Ross is. I know even after one class, it has to have at least one shareholder.
Sweet Moses. Golly.
This is why Conor McGregor, he keeps taking my line of trash talking, and he'll still be number 2 when it comes to trash talk, but he's getting better.
Wow, now we're segueing into UFC.
I know we just went from Facebook privacy to UFC.
Well, the UFC has the exact same problem.
No, that problem's called Dana White.
Oh, you think Dana White's a problem? This could be interesting.
I think he's the problem. I mean, he has built it up so much. There's got to be a point at which, I mean, take let's see.
Maybe if you compare Facebook data.
He needs Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Well, the UFC needs a star.
They need it's like WWE, which I know is not real, but you know, they have John Cena and they have The Undertaker.
Real. It's scripted.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a real fucking business, and it's a monumentally profitable business.
With shareholders, butthead. So,
That's right.
Exactly. And they've got a mayor. They're also highly political. Kane just won a mayor.
I know, just here in Tennessee. I mean,
I wonder if he comes on the stage, is he's going to go, and the fire is going to come up.
I'm going to call this town hall meeting together.
Well, and didn't at least once Vince McMahon's wife, I don't remember her name, run for like Senate or some shit?
She's currently the secretary for Small Business Administration.
That's right.
And the Trump administration.
That's right. Well, and Dana White's never been shy about talking how he's modeled some aspects of his business acumen after Vince McMahon. I mean, they're not friends.
Oh, no, they are friends.
Why wouldn't it? Why would you not want to copy someone who's been successful? Right?
Yeah. Well, right.
And Vince McMahon's a prime example of that. I mean, he's built up a huge empire
from basically nothing.
Nothing.
And he can just blow, like literally light on fire, a couple $100 million, not think twice about it. He's going to do it again with this next XFL or whatever he's calling it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Do you guys remember that? And then they had the Clean Bodybuilding Federation.
Yeah.
Dan was a part of that. Look at his physique. So
I know.
Oh gosh.
Look at that.
Styling and profiling. Ric Flair ain't got nothing on me.
That's a bowling ball on an arm, son.
Oh my gosh.
So back to this instance. So we have the same corruption in academia, it seems, where because of the incentive system, if you look at students as a product, which is how they're being looked at, the incentive system is to not only cater to that product, which I don't have a problem with customer service if you want to spin it that way. What I have a problem with is the detachment or decoupling from the spirit and idea of an academy. Well, look, here's an example. There's a fundamental difference between a 2-year and a 4-year, and that fundamental difference is the difference between training and education. Those aren't the same thing. Can we agree on that?
Correct.
Right. And the mission of a 2-year is to provide training for workforce. Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. The mission of a 4-year, by its nature, is to educate a populace.
Agreed.
So, particularly in our field, why does it seem that increasing the language, if you just, let's say, survey syllabi, the language is geared towards training for workforce, not educating a populace? I've noticed that over the last 5 years. I don't know if you have.
I would say that I agree more than I disagree.
Is it like 60-40, 70-30?
It's probably closer to, everything depends on the totality of the circumstances.
All right, so we'll call it.
Generally, yes, I would say, yeah, that's exactly the way it is, which is why you're starting to see a lot more, technology trade schools, so to speak. And you still have a ton of different trade schools that are outside, but they follow the 2-year college program.
Right.
Boot camps, coding boot camps.
Which, by the way, I have zero issue with that mission. In fact, I absolutely agree with it. And I think it's increasingly important, particularly because, the problem, particularly in technology and cyber specifically in 4 years, is framed as a workforce problem. So the question I've never seen an answer to is, how is a 4-year ever going to be equipped by its nature to address that type of problem? Because it's not the problem it was created to address. That's why the 2-year, or the trade school, or the tech school, in terms of a technical college, right? Or a community college, if you prefer. That's why they exist.
Well, it's a good point. Almost to the extent where I kind of look at it, if we took a look at military, part of the reason why our 4-year schools, and then most, a lot of them now, if they're going 4, then they're going to, go to the full 6 to go get their graduate degree at some point. You're talking about training management versus training the tactical people who are going to implement the strategies. And we don't do enough of that separation of the two, because there's a lot of people that, going to that 4-year management at this particular point is probably not a good idea, but they need a skill for those people who are going to be in management to be able to deploy whatever said strategy is by management. Right? And I don't think we do it well enough to promote that idea.
Yeah, well, we have in academia, there's, by its nature, I would suggest that the material difference between a 2-year and a 4-year is the difference between boot camp and officer school.
I would agree with that.
If you want to try to draw analogies, right? And yet what I see happening is the 4-year pretending as if it can be a boot camp so that it can train infantry to do infantry things, which is enter a workforce, right? Because the infantry is the general workforce of any military, so to speak, yeah? And I just don't understand. Well, I do understand, and this is my point about corruption, is it's a corruption at the spirit of the academy, where it's perverted to be training instead of education. So why have 4 years?
Well, same thing. You need officers, you need management.
Well, you do.
People who can lead.
You do, but that's not what a 4 year is producing. I would suggest that this goes back to the incentive thing. Is part of the incentive, because this is another difference between a 4-year and a 2-year, is the cost. So if I can charge you for a 4-year, but essentially give you a 2-year in terms of quality and quantity of information, then why wouldn't I do it? That's a higher profit margin by its very definition, isn't it?
Well, I think again it comes back down to the overall premise. The 4-year schools are not doing that. They're all advertising and they're all trying to perform, and a lot of, I'll say all, generally they are all going after the same target audience, the same market. They don't want to distinguish themselves. Why? Because no institution, no matter how much they say we are not for profit, they're all for profit.
They're all a business. They're all a business. Yeah.
So the 4 years don't want you to go to a 2-year, but they offer vastly different services, at least, in my opinion. There are some that don't, but for the most part, you don't see the big gap between the two. And there should be. I think there should be a big gap between the two, and there's not. This doesn't mean later, after you've gotten into the workforce, you've got some skills, that then maybe you don't want to go into a leadership position. Well, now go get your training for that.
Sure. At this point, I think I'd rather see a proliferation of 2-year tech schools. Yeah. I'd rather see a proliferation of 2-year liberal arts schools, to be honest with you. I think actually they could probably fundamentally do a better job of training and education at the same time.
Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, going to a 4-year degree, getting a 4-year degree helps me think for myself, help me think outside the box crap. But, think about people's problems from their perspective. I did 2 years of community college before I went to the 4-year. Definitely does not prepare you for life. But I think there's stuff the 4-year offers that you're not going to get at a 2-year school.
Sure.
And then on top of that,
and I went into the workforce first. I did boot camps. I was always into technology, but I didn't go back to school until I was I have to go back and look, either 25 or 26. But then I went to Strayer. So they were much more hands-on tech-like, and then they give you the academics on top of it. But I don't know that would have been, if I had gone, I don't think if I'd gone traditionally into school right out of high school, I don't think I would have done well.
Well, it's a hard transition. It's also a hard transition because we're all like 18 or 19 or 17. You know what I mean?
And making large life decisions.
Well, and your worldview is that big.
Yeah.
You don't know shit. How could you? You're only 17 or 18 or 19. I mean, you have no experience.
My son tells me you're wrong about that.
Well, sure he does, because his fucking world is that big. I mean, when you only know one question, every answer is wrong.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting because at least now, I mean, so we talked to Air National Guard recruiter today. That was interesting. I wrote down because he has his eyes that he wants to just do one type of job. It's got to be cyber warfare. And I'm kind of like, there's other aspects into the cyber piece that can build you into that. But what he's finding out, so like, you know, the Guard has a great program, like that your school gets paid for to a state school while you're there, at least a good portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the recruiter was like, look, you know, the one that you want is in Michigan. I'm like, we live in Indiana. You can go to the Michigan one, but now the benefit for your education just got cut drastically because no matter what, they don't pay as much out of state. And because we're in Indiana, he doesn't get in-state at there, so it's a wash. I'm like, why don't you do this? Still build you up those skills. You can always transition after you're out of school because he wants to go and be an officer in the Air Force into this thing. Hey, go build up these other skills. It still leads right into it.
Yeah.
So
well, and so that's the exact argument that I would make, though, is that, and I think this particularly happened to us, not the generation before us, is that we were all told that if you want a good job, if you want to make good money, you have to go to college. College is 4-year, right? And that's the bill of goods we're selling to our kids, is if you want to compete in the workforce and have a good job and make good money, you have to have at least a 4-year. Well, but again, to me, that's not what a 4-year represents. But it increasingly has, to the point where it's devalued, and perhaps you need graduate school as well.
Correct. And I think that's the great part here. Like with what Danny is learning in this case, hey, my college will be paid for. At the same time, I have my job here, and I have my 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks during the year. And when I'm done with school, I can go right into officer candidate school and continue doing with my career and finish out another essentially 6 years. I get paid. I'm doing exactly what I want. I've got my education.
No debt,
I don't have any student loan. And I want to be doing this because essentially I want to do offensive for the military against potential enemy combatants. Well, he's got a plan. Now he's going to find out, because his first question was, how likely is it that I'm going to be deployed?
How about the realization that you have no choice over it once you agree?
Yeah. And the staff sergeant was quite diplomatic about it. There are some skills that get deployed more often than others. If you choose one, I'll tell you which ones get deployed more often, but there is no guarantee. If we decide that there's a war, the Guard gets called.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are a soldier.
Yep.
That's that.
You're first a soldier, you're second, your profession in there. And there's a chance. Now, the good news is when you're in technology, you don't have to be physically anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
But he's at least starting to ask questions and get these things out there. So he's starting to understand, my worldview is like this. I need to start expanding it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my worldview was so small at that age. It's amazing. The older I get, the more I realize I did not know anything at that age. Anything. I mean, I was a marketing major, and I ended up being a cybersecurity professor. I mean, it's just, you have no idea where you're going to be 20 years down the road. You really have none.
And barring some really rare exceptions, we were all like that, man. And of course we were, because we were 17, 18, 19. That's that. You don't know shit.
Yeah.
And that's
14 years.
But and that is the point about going out into the world. is so that you can slowly increase that size through experience and interaction, so forth and so on. Not go through this extended boot camp to enter a workforce under the guise of trying to increase your worldview, which is one of the problems I have about this notion of the lack of benefit of studying liberal arts. That is a primary value of liberal arts, is its impact on the size of and your ability to articulate a worldview. STEM doesn't do that. STEM trains you how to do a job.
We don't need any more hippies out there. Liberal arts hippie nonsense.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we don't have enough.
Maybe that's true.
You know, what's funny about that is I probably enjoyed the humanities classes that I took maybe more from a learning and academic sense than I did with any of the tech classes. Probably by far, especially philosophy.
See, I'm taking that this semester. Faculty can take classes. I'm signing up for Intro to Philosophy because I wish I'd taken it in college.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
now I'm gonna take it now and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, right, and the interesting part in that is you want to starting to understand, like, how we got to the democratic state that we did. That is just fascinating. Like the way in which Thomas Jefferson had to write the Declaration of Independence, the principles that he used based on at the time with Jonathan Locke, and where Jonathan Locke's lineage basically came from and who he trained. I mean, it's, those classes were extremely fascinating to me, also because it helps you to think. So, if you separate those things out, regardless if it's that humanity side, the liberal arts side, from whatever you're skilled train, you're going to lose. If you only do one or the other, I think you're losing. You have to marry them up. That's just my opinion.
And you can trace that all the way back to like the concept of a Bushido, right? With the everyman or the well-rounded Renaissance person. I mean, it's persistent across culture, across time, where if you're not well-rounded, so to speak, then of course you're missing at least some portion, in a major portion, a quarter, a third, a half of the total picture. And particularly around what the classic liberal arts articulate as the trivium, rhetoric, logic, and grammar. So like in my undergrad, which was liberal arts, the school was liberal arts, we, as part of the...
Explains a lot.
Yeah, well, it does, man. And so we had 3 required philosophy classes on top of our 3 or 4 required, let's say, theology classes, because I went to a Quaker school. and so then on top of all the other stuff you took in your major, your electives, and so forth and so on. So it's a perverted incentive system, man, that increasingly aggravates me.
It's only getting worse.
Well, yeah, because it's past the tipping point of corruption. So why is Facebook? It's the same thing. Why is Facebook, in our eyes, we probably agree, getting worse? Well, because they still have to increase their margins by 10% every year, don't they? Or they're not going to be favored in the market.
Yeah. Same reason why Elon Musk has got to take he's going to have to go private. He's going to have to go private because the market short sales his stuff constantly because they know that he's going to come out and say something stupid, which is going to like right now. All right, he says he's going to take it private, so the stock market goes up. They had to suspend trading.
Oh, I hadn't heard that part.
Yeah, because everyone started buying because if he goes private, he's got to buy back all that stock.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Oh, at a set price, $4.20."
Yeah,
which is I think this is a joke,
right? So then what happens? Now it's up. Now the people who play the game, they all short sale, and then boom, because he's going to say something else stupid. The market's going to have the opposite effect, and those people just made tons of money. Tesla is a favorite for the short sellers out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean that's the nature of the market economy right now.
Hey, that's capitalism.
I don't know about you too, but I feel like Musk is a clown. He's clown shoes.
I do. I all these, how do you go off on a rant and call a guy who saved a kid a pedo? I mean, you just can't do that stuff on Twitter. You're a public image. Your company's worth billions of dollars, and you call some random guy a pedo you've never met in your life. You just can't do that stuff. You imagine if Tim Cook had done that at Apple or Bill Gates had done that, they would have been fired. But since Musk he runs all those companies, they're not going to fire the guy because he's eclectic.
Well,
I mean, they could
stock himself,
but they're not.
Yeah. Well, because
he's the face.
So I'll dissent, and I'm being sincere. I don't have a problem with the guy at all. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about a personal thing because I don't know the guy personally, but I actually think he's quite bright. I think just like all humans, he's prone to doing stupid shit. You know, like so if I have, I think 615 followers on Twitter. If I fuck up, first of all, some of those aren't really following me anyway. So the magnification of that error is exceedingly small. Just like this podcast, there's 2 people watching right now. We can say whatever the fuck we want. Right. But that's the beauty of it.
Funny enough, I lost like 3,000 followers, so they must have all been bots.
It's all those hooker bots, man.
Because I'm like, I woke up, I'm like, hey, I've got like, 6,200 followers, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, literally, I woke up, it was like sometime a couple of weeks ago, and I went, so I'm like, well, because Twitter had this, they're doing this big purge. On bots. So I'm like, wow, that means like half the people that were following me were fake.
Well, I mean,
the other half is
about the other half either.
Guys, I lost 1 in the big purge. Okay, I'm down to 114 followers. So,
right, but my point is, how many followers does that guy have? How many millions is the way I should phrase that question.
Sure.
So of course it's going to get noticed and amplified, and I'm not condoning it, but I certainly understand how it happened.
But you don't see the CEOs of other major companies doing the things that he's doing. Their shareholders.
And that's why I don't like them, because they're fake.
You think Tim Cook's and those guys are fake?
Yep. I think they are very careful to consistently portray a very specific image that's crafted for them.
Sure.
At least Steve Jobs was authentic.
No, I know, but you're talking about the number one reason these companies are publicly traded is for the shareholders to make money. And if he starts screwing with that, and Daniel brought it up, and I read this too, Musk has the biggest short sellers in history. I mean, really what Musk is doing is screwing over his own shareholders.
I disagree. And here's why I disagree. Because no matter what he said, I don't think that in any way, shape, or form impedes his ability to create electric vehicles or fucking space rockets. I think it makes him a human being. And I think the problem lies in the shareholders and their lack of empathy with the human condition than it does a person saying some crazy shit that I don't agree with what he said, not one bit. But I don't think in any way, shape, or form it impacts his ability to lead a company.
What makes you think that this isn't an image that he's created for himself also?
It very well could be.
Right? But here's the thing. I don't think he can do any of these things. He has wasted the money that he's been given. He has not projected anywhere close to being able to deliver on any of his promises. And this clown chose to go public, to have the public scrutiny. He didn't have to go public.
I agree.
He chose to go public. And now after he's chosen that, he's essentially saying, he's blaming everyone else for the critique that he's been given. The whole reason to go public is to have a public view, to provide a level of transparency. And now he's pissed off that has to be transparent. So, place, if you don't want, Michael Dell is probably the real genius out of any of these things. He said, you know what? I've got public scrutiny. I didn't go and just blabber that I was taking it private. Yeah. I said, I've already in process of taking it private. Why? Because I need to fix my house. He didn't go and start blaming all of the stock market on his failures. He said, I need to do this, and here's how I'm going to do it. And now what's happening? He's turned right back around and he's turned it around. Elon Musk is blaming everyone for what he chose, He's not blaming himself. He's blaming everyone else. And that's why I think clown shoes.
And you know what? Going public, everybody who goes public always states you're going to be under a extra level of scrutiny. And I worked at Dell when it was public and then was taken private. And you know, the memos that fly back and forth internally are saying, you know what? Now we don't have to report quarterly earnings. We don't have to appease shareholders publicly. You know, if we have a problem one quarter, we can fix it the next.
Well, and if you want to evaluate whether or not Elon Musk is a good leader, then I'm in agreement with you guys.
That's the only thing that matters. That's what they teach us at Ross.
That's what they taught us at University of Dallas. So,
well, I think it's another classic example of somebody that is more of an engineer becoming a leader and struggling.
Yeah, and he should have probably stayed more private. He bit off more than he can chew.
That's what I think.
Instead of taking the accountability of that and saying, "Hey, you know what? We're going to get better." You know, I would appreciate that, and I would give me more confidence. But that's not what he says. That's not even what he portrays. He portrays a level of arrogance with no proven results, just proven failures at this particular moment. Maybe he changes it, but as I continue,
he's running 3 massive companies.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a humongous job.
Well, I don't know that they're massive companies at this point.
The space, that's a lot of millions of dollars in money from the government. You've got Tesla, and solar is the only one I'm not.
They're all burning money right now.
Well, doesn't he still insist on interviewing everybody personally?
I don't know.
Oh, I heard that.
That was only up to at least a few years ago. He still was.
He might, well, because the company was small. I mean, each of his companies are like a couple hundred employees, basically. Here's the thing. How many Tesla cars have been sold total? I think I heard the number was like 65,000.
No, I think it's enough to where they lose that tax credit now, is what they said.
Right. Even Kia sells more cars on a daily basis than what Tesla has sold in its entire history. Suzuki might even still sell more cars on a daily basis, and they're not even sold in the United States anymore.
So do you think the other car manufacturers would be pushing their own electric lines so much if Tesla hadn't been created?
That's a valid.
I'm not even sure that the electric car is even the right way to go. I don't believe it does. I don't believe it does anything to our environment. It's just, I think you're essentially saying which side of the equation do you want to have the damage to the environment to happen, on the front end or the back end?
Completely disagree with you.
Yeah. And
I'll tell you why. I have an electric car, Nissan Leaf. If I were to throw solar panels on top, I wouldn't be essentially doing any emissions whatsoever.
Right. So what do you do with when all that stuff has to be destroyed? Because it's run past its life cycle. That's where I'm going. It's the end of the equation. So
it's either now the front or the back is what you're saying.
Right. So like plastic is a good example. To make paper straws, you're adding all this pollutant to the environment because making paper is dirty, right? Plastic can be recycled. I just don't know, is electric the right way? We need some type of alternative source, but is electric the right? I don't know.
Well, right. And so let's be good thinkers, since we're all doctorates, and separate the questions though, because I think it's materially different to ask if it's the right way to go, and then separately, is it better than petrol? Those are 2 different questions.
Well, petrol's a finite resource.
Yes, but I think we should probably, because we've been going this at an hour, we should save this for next Thursday.
I know now you cocksuckers are cutting into my lunchtime.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Because I think we could go on this for a long time.
Well, it's a good conversation though. But also I think it's a good, just to finish this up, it's also a good illustration to me, even more important than the actual conversation about electric versus whatever, is how to tease apart these questions and actually create a good framework to derive an answer.
Sure.
Yeah. Which I think is the benefit of education, not training.
Right. Perfect. All right, guys. Till next week.
Look at that shit.
Till next week. Get out of here.
I started this vegan diet. Look at that.
Can't see anything.
Hey, which way's the gun show? It's this way. There it is.
All right, folks. Got to run.
See you, Dan. Have a good day, Dan.
You can.
See you guys.
Bye.